This episode we're having Martin Parr, brilliant photographer, legend of documentary photography whose pictures are so direct that's on the edge of being cheeky. Well, some may say way over this edge. We'll talk on collecting, the therapeutic role of photography, and the role of experimenting in Martin's career.
Słuchasz podcastu Fotopolis. Zaprasza Michał Matus.
Martin Parr in podcast Fotopolis. Hello.
Hi there.
I was thinking for a while how to introduce you to our listeners, and I think the word collector seems the most accurate. Would you agree?
Well, no, I'd say photographer more than collector. I mean, collecting's part of my work, and you could argue that the whole act of photography is a form of collecting. But ultimately, the thing that I, really, I suppose, value more than anything else is being a photographer.
But how much of the act of photography is collecting to you?
Well, as I mentioned, it's part. You could look at it like that because, in particular, I guess with my archive about the UK. I've tried to go and look at most aspects of life here, all classes, different regions, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. I've tried to build in everything into my archive. So you could argue that's collecting, but I still want to be a photographer more than a collector. But a collector's pretty near in terms of it being just behind being a photographer.
You say that you would prefer to be seen as, or you think of yourself more than as photographer than collector. So
sure.
What's about photography that is something more than collecting?
Well, I guess it's been the most important aspect of my career. I've tried to make a statement about my connection and relationship to the world out there, and I do that through photography. And obviously the images that I've collected and that are in my archive are that legacy.
But is it somehow producing the body of work, making a collection of particular moments? Is it something more than moments? How do you see it?
I don't think it's moments. It's just, doing a narrative about the subject. And within that, you hope that some of the pictures are better than others and that they can become more memorable. But ultimately, you have to try and cover things as you find them. So, I'm a great believer in doing thorough documentation. Often I don't use these pictures, but I take them anyway. And they just go into the archive. And I have, round the corner here in the foundation, 750,000 prints that I've done over my career. And that ultimately is the biggest collection. And then also online, we have 50,000 images on the Magnum site as well.
When you are building a collection of stuff you like, for example, I don't know, the watches with Saddam Hussein or cups with Osama bin Laden, do you have somehow similar approach while producing body of work, photographic body of work?
Not really. I mean, the biggest collections I've done have been around photography books, and there it's a question of traveling, talking to dealers, talking to photographers, finding things that are important, unearthing books that have been overlooked, and then eventually publishing them in the 3 volumes that I did with Jerry Badger about the history of the photo book. But then also I have these minor collections like Saddam Hussein, Space Dogs, Martin Luther King. They're just jogging along nicely.
What makes you want to collect?
Well, it's just a thing you're born with. Some people are natural collectors, which I am, and some people don't have that bug. But, you meet plenty of people who do collecting in some shape or form.
So it's nothing like the thing that makes you do photographs?
No, very different, yeah.
When I look at your photographs, I have the feeling that you're doing exactly the opposite thing that a lot of artists are doing. You're not looking for hidden meaning. You seem to be 100% interested in the surface. Do you see it like that? Yeah,
I'm interested in the subject matter and my ability to capture that subject matter, both emotionally and factually in a photograph.
So the surface is enough for you?
Yeah, well, that's what it's about. I mean, obviously you want good, iconic pictures from that exercise, and they very rarely happen. But you can only hope that they do.
I'm still thinking about this comparison between collecting and photography. Documentary photography is, I think, a little closer to collecting things than, for example, conceptual photography. When you, in documentary photography, have some also luck to find those things that you can then collect somehow.
Well, no, you take yourself to the places where you know photographs are going to be revealed. Like, in the summer, you go to the seaside, you go to country fetes, you go to agricultural shows where if there's people, that's where I'm happy. I want places where there's lots of people and then I can get on with my work.
The truth part is important for you?
There's no such thing as truth, really. It's just I guess if anything, it's a personal truth, but even that I don't like using the word. Using the word truth is something I don't like to do. I mean, it's interpretation.
Okay, so let's not call it the truth. Call it reality not created by photographer, but perceived by photographer.
No, I mean, it's about my connection to the world. That's the connection. That's the interesting thing.
You had been using commercial aesthetics in documentary photography, but commercial aesthetics shifted through all these years. From today's perspective, this colorful commercial photography may seem a bit outdated. Do you find anything in today's commercial photography worth incorporating in present documentary projects?
Oh, you have to remember, I'm a commercial photographer too. So, I'm using my own language and putting it back into commercial photography. I mean, of course, everything changes, but I guess that palette of bright, colourful images and bright, colourful colours is still there. I mean, in advertising, as it is in my documentary work, although it's calmed down a bit since the digital era, because it was really the film and flash that gave you those very strong colours. You miss these strong colours when you look at nowadays commercial photography? No, they're still there. So it's not like the medium, which is film, is for you important somehow? Well, no, because I went to digital over 10 years ago, and that has a different palette to film, and therefore you make the most of it. Because the advantages of digital, weigh out, the sort of demands of analog. I mean, you can get 500 pictures on one card. With my medium format images, I would only get 10 pictures on a roll of film. So you can see it's very economical. But does it change anything, the way you photograph in any way? I guess the advantage really is photographing at night within nightclubs or outside. You can adjust the ISO, you can adjust the shutter, you can adjust so many things easier and get results which you can see immediately on the back of your camera and adjust it accordingly. So that's been a great advantage. It means you take more pictures, and at night you take better pictures. Did the way people tend to use photography now, did it affect your photography? Not really, no. What do you? I don't know what you mean by how people take pictures now. How they use photography, how they look at photos, how they use it in social media and personal lives. It changed a lot over last 30 years, and I'm wondering how did it affect it? Did it affect your photography? Well, I mean, we run a good social media campaign here. We have a lot of followers. We make sure we try and do an interesting lead for people, both on my own work and on the foundation as well. So yeah, that's an important part of our communicating with the people that are interested in my work. But do you think it changed the medium somehow? The way people can interact with photography now? I guess it's a lot more democratic than it used to be, so that's a good thing. I'm interested in your view on the way smartphones changed our society in terms of the way it looks out there. Do you think it's more, boring than it was 20, 30 years ago when all people weren't, looking at the little screens? No, I think it's opened it up. I mean, I quite like the effect of the smartphone and Instagram and all these other photo sharing sites that you've got. I mean, it means, you don't have to go through the system of knocking on the doors of publishers or galleries. You can just do it yourself. So that's good. That's good for the democracy of photography. But what about photographing people on beach, for example? Life on the beach is still as exciting and diverse as it was 20, 30 years ago when smartphones were in the
stealing our, time?
No, I think the beaches look basically the same as they did 20, 30 years ago. That hasn't changed. I mean, what has changed is if you go to a tourist spot, like a famous site, everyone's got their cameras out, and now they've got their smartphones out. So it means everyone is taking more pictures. And I mean, I've done a book on people taking selfies, in fact. So, I've brought it into my vocabulary, into my imagery quite often.
Do you think it didn't somehow, destroy the diversity of life on the street?
No, I think it's a good thing. I'm all for it.
You've had a few unexpected turns in your photography career, whether it was focusing on color in documentary, using macro lens, telephoto lens, playing with form of a postcard, sticker, coloring book. Are those just experiments for you? Is it just playing with the medium, or is it something more?
Yeah, I mean, it's being playful. I mean, I like to try different things out. So yes, I've used different lenses. I mean, I'm currently exploring what the telephoto lens can do. Quite, it's interesting, especially on the beaches. It's a different way of photographing. So yeah, I'm always interested in trying to do different things. And I've also, got involved and started the foundation here in Bristol. So this is where I'm talking to you from today. So that's a big part of my life now. We have a program of exhibitions. We have an archive of images that we've collected, predominantly about British and Irish documentary photographers.
You've said about this telephoto lens, what it gives you right now, what macro lens didn't back then.
Well, each of these lenses have their characteristic look, so you have to employ them and see what's possible. So the telephoto is interesting because it's not something that's been used in the fine art world that much, and I'm just exploring its possibilities. I've been continuing doing that this summer. I did a book called Beach Therapy, which is about that, using the telephoto and building on the work that was in that book and trying to, explore it further.
Don't you feel disconnected from the things happening out there when you're using telephoto lens?
Well, you are disconnected. That's part of the nature of the telephoto. But yeah, that's not a problem.
So it's something you want, to be disconnected while using telephoto lens.
I mean, it just happens naturally. I mean, you do projects where you're very connected to people. You're talking to them and photographing them, doing portraits. I've just done a project like that for a magazine. But in the telephoto, you don't talk to people at all.
How does it affect your body of work?
Well, it has a particular look, and I'm exploring what's possible, seeing and experimenting with how to play with it. So that's the fun part of it.
You prefer to experiment with different possibilities, or you prefer to rather, master the way you chose for particular projects?
No, you experiment with different possibilities. I mean, doing the foundation here is also an experiment, and in curating, in collecting, putting a team together that can do that. So I have people here working for my foundation and people working for my, business part of my life, because I have to earn the money to pay the salaries of the foundation and the people that I employ directly for my own photography.
You think that's that experimenting is something crucial to, survive in the world of photography, or to stay enthusiastic about photography?
I think it's good to experiment, to stay fresh, to, not rely entirely on your back catalogue.
You've said once, or maybe more than once, that photography was and maybe is somehow therapy when you confront the ambivalence about England, the world you live in. How serious are you when you are thinking of the therapeutic use of photography?
Yeah, I think it's a vital part of it, especially, as you mentioned, with my relationship with the UK or even England. I was very anti-Brexit. And I was annoyed with my compatriots that they voted it through. So that's something I can articulate through the images. I've taken myself to areas of the country where they voted very strongly for Brexit to photograph there. And so that just comes in as part of my work. And the therapy part of it is played out because of my dislike of, people who voted for Brexit, but my affection for them at the same time, because they're carrying on with the traditions in England, which I enjoy.
How do you think this therapeutic use of photography maybe pushed further?
Well, I guess remember, the other thing you may not know is I've got cancer, so I've slowed down a bit. I've only just started shooting in the last few months. So this time last year, I was in a bad way. So, at the moment, I'm doing a limited amount of shooting, but I'm still full on with the foundation. So, I'm just sort of taking life as it comes, really. So, I can't plan great fields of exploration and experimentation as you're wanting me to state. I'm just carrying on as per normal.
Contact with photography helps with this situation?
I guess it gives you, a motivation. And, that's how I judge how well I am I able to go out and photograph properly? Which I'm now able to do.
Being able again to take photos, was it that much important for you?
Of course, yeah. Because, you've got to have a reason to live, apart from just living in itself. So, yeah, it's my motivating force.
What's about photography that's most important for you right now, after 50 years of shooting?
Well, I've done certain things this year that I've always wanted to do. I went to the Queen's Garden Party and photographed there. I went to Glastonbury, the biggest festival in the UK. That's always the same weekend as the Magnum AGM, so that's why I've not been able to go. So I'm sort of ticking off things and going to events and places, different places in the UK that I haven't really been to. I've just come back from North Wales, which I don't know very well, so that was a great trip to have a chance to explore that. So I'm slowly going through the places I want to go and the events that I want to attend.
You're photographing differently that you were photographing a year or two ago?
It's more or less the same. But remember, I've got the telephoto lens with me, so some days I put that on, and some days I just have the normal standard lens.
What makes you choose the standard or telephoto now?
Well, it's usually when you see the opportunities that the telephoto may offer. So beaches are a very good example of that. Because my wife likes swimming, we're often near beaches. And I'm fascinated by the English or the Welsh or the Scottish seaside resort. So sometimes I shoot it with a standard lens, and sometimes I get the telephoto out.
I'm thinking about the way you present your photos, the books, the postcards, exhibitions, and even coloring book. What's your favorite way of presenting your photos now?
I guess a book is still, the favored option. I've done many books and will continue to do so. It's a perfect way of making a statement about a place or a project. You approve of the edit, you approve of the sequencing, you talk to the designer about how it's going to be printed on design. So yeah, the book is the ultimate statement, and they don't get thrown away. Exhibitions come and go, magazines get thrown away, but books are there forever.
You like that books are more democratic than exhibitions?
I wouldn't say they're more democratic. I mean, I guess someone's got to buy a book or borrow it or look at it in a library. I mean, we don't charge anything for people to go and see the shows in the foundation, but you have to charge someone to buy a book.
But books are accessible all around the world, while exhibitions aren't.
Yeah, but I doubt whether there's many people. You're coming from Poland, right? I doubt whether there's many Polish photographers that have got my books. It's pretty unlikely. Unless they're well-travelled and have come to the UK.
Is it like that books are also the way you fund your foundation and exhibitions and stuff?
Yeah, we sell books, and that gives us income to help pay for the foundation. We have a strong membership scheme, and if you're a middle-ranking member, then you get a free Martin Parr print as part of your package. So yeah, we're finding ways of becoming more sustainable. I won't be here forever, so when I drop dead, I want to ensure that the foundation continues. I don't know when that's going to happen, though. If I knew, it would be very useful. You want to make a guess? Hi. Oh, here comes a great British photographer. Come and meet him. This is a guy called Jem Southam, probably Britain's best landscape photographer. He's a brilliant photographer and a good friend of ours.
So the foundation is also a great way for you to have a vibrant contact with photographers.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that follow us. We have a lot of people that come here and socialise. It's a hub for photography. Next door to us is the Royal Photographic Society, so they have a gallery as well. So people often come and look at the exhibitions in both sites.
So being around people is something that photography gave you somehow?
Well, I mean, we like to have fellow photographers come here, like Jem has just walked in. They're always welcome, and we enjoy talking to them, finding out what they're doing, buying their books, keeping in contact.
And you said that at the very beginning that you just like to be around people, and that's why you photographing the way you're photographing. But I'm wondering, is it like that you choose photography also because of its capabilities of bringing you to the people?
I mean, today I'm not photographing at all, but at the weekend, 3 days I'll be photographing. It's a big bank holiday here in the UK. But a lot of the days I'm not photographing at all. So, this week I've been editing while I took in Wales.
Yeah, but editing, spending time in your foundation is, still being connected to the world of photography, which somehow lets you spend a lot of time with many different people. Is it the thing that's one of the most important things for you in photography?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like to photograph people, but I don't need all the time to talk to the people I'm photographing. Sometimes you do. That's a very good way of doing it as well. But often I'm just doing it, anonymously at a tourist location or on a beach.
So observing is more important.
I mean, I think you have to distinguish between, the people here that we talk to, first the staff, and secondly the people that come through and visit us in the foundation, and then come through and people that we know personally. We can give them a cup of coffee and find out what they're up to. Both of those things are good for me.
Okay, that's it. Thank you a lot for the conversation.
That was refreshing.
Thank you a lot.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
To był podcast Fotopolis. Wszystkie odcinki znajdziesz na fotopolis.pl.